Hello, this is Oksana from the Red Barcelona Podcast Studio. This is our special holiday wrap-up episode about the podcast industry in 2025. Today, we'll honestly sum things up. How many people actually listen to podcasts right now? What's happening with YouTube and the video format? How is artificial intelligence really helping creators? And what are podcasters earning money from right now? Of course, at the end, we'll discuss how you personally can use all of this in 2026. Brew some tea, coffee, grab your New Year's vase of tangerines, and let's get to summing things up. Let's start with the main thing. Podcasts in 2025 haven't gone anywhere. On the contrary, they've become an even more common part of everyday life. I mean, who among us doesn't fall asleep to podcasts? According to estimates, in 2025, about 584 million people worldwide listen to podcasts. That's a plus or minus 6 to 7% increase from last year. Forecasts cautiously suggest that by 2027, we will approach 650 million listeners. Now, about the number of shows themselves. There are approximately 4.5 million podcasts listed on the platforms, but here it's important to do a reality check. 4.5 million is the total number of projects ever created and added to the platforms. Many of them stopped after a few episodes, are released once every 6 months, once a year, or are simply sitting there as dead weight on the lists. So now I have a question for you. What do you think, what percentage of these 4.5 million podcasts is actually active today? What does active mean? Meaning it's released regularly, more or less, at least once a month. Write your guess in the comments, and at the end, I'll reveal the correct answer. A little bit about money. The global podcasting market in 2025 is estimated at about $30 to $40 billion. This amount includes advertising, subscriptions, integrations, merchandise sold during podcasts and on platforms, events, everything that revolves around audio and video. The advertising segment alone is plus or minus $4 to $4.5 billion a year, with a growth of about 10 to 11% per year. So, to put it simply, the industry isn't just alive, it's earning money quite confidently, and you can invest in it. Now let's talk about the format that finally came to the forefront in 2025. YouTube has become the main entry point for podcasts. About a third of listeners, 30%, discover new shows right there. Spotify and Apple Podcasts are noticeably behind, with about 20, 25, and 15% respectively. Write on which platform you watch or listen to podcasts. But in general, what does this mean in practice? More and more podcasts are initially planned as video shows. Vertical videos, shorts, reels are a mandatory promo element for podcasts. Many authors first think about how it will look, and only then about how it will sound. And for young people, a podcast in 2025 is often talking heads on YouTube, and not just audio in their headphones. If a podcast has neither a video format nor clips, it loses out in organic reach to those who use these tools. The moral is simple. If you want new people to find you in 2026, you need at least a minimal video component, and you should plan for it right now. The year 2025 has definitively made artificial intelligence part of the standard podcast toolkit. Most advanced authors and studios and production companies use neural networks not to experiment with some possibilities, but simply as a convenient tool. Where exactly has artificial intelligence already become the norm? For example, we clean the sound, remove noise, normalize the sound, and do some light editing. What else? Working with text, episode transcriptions, drafts, some show notes, brief episode summaries. Promo. Experiments with titles, tests with descriptions, and different options for social media. Searching the archive is also a great feature. For example, help me find all the episodes where I talked about monetization. Localization, of course, translation, dubbing into other languages to go beyond a single market. Especially today, this is very important. Artificial intelligence can create hosts for us, synthetic podcasts, but for now, this is all still in the experimental stage because it's still the person, a real person, their personality that decides for ordinary people whether they want to watch it or not. But in reality, artificial intelligence is mostly used to create synthetic news, some daily publications. So in short, the human remains the priority. Now for the point that's most pleasant for many, money. How to make money from podcasts and how do people make money from podcasts? Advertising hasn't gone anywhere. It's still the main source of income and almost the only source of income for podcasts. What's happening in 2025? First, subscriptions. People subscribe to exclusive episodes, to extended versions of episodes, to ad-free episodes, or, like with Danila Poporekni, for example, with swearing. Yes, some additional segments for paid subscribers. All of this works. The second point from a money perspective is donations, monthly contributions, some one-time thank yous. Clear explanations of what exactly this money is for, what it's for developing the format, for the studio, and so on. They encourage people to keep donating. And of course, some related products like online courses, workshops, private clubs and chats, some consultations, mentorship, through which people earn money, while using podcasts to showcase their expertise. The same thing works from a company's perspective. In addition to this, some live events can be built on top of podcasts, online, offline events, some meetups, and so on. So, the trend is this. A podcast is no longer just about weekly episodes for the sake of episodes. It's a whole mini ecosystem from which you can generate multiple income streams. And podcasts are being integrated into business systems. Who listens to all of this? Let's take a look. On average, active listeners spend 7 to 9 hours a week with podcasts, according to Riverside statistics. The listener profile looks something like this. The main age range is 18 to 35, but now the share of listeners over 35 is also growing simply because people are getting older. On average, they are more educated and more affluent people. What was surprising to me was that the share of female listeners was smaller than the share of male listeners, but now it's getting closer to the share of men, and they're becoming very similar. I thought that women listen to a lot of podcasts. What are the main top topics? News, true crime, interviews, and various talk shows, business, career, and self-development. So, if you're making a podcast on one of these topics, you're playing in the major leagues. And don't be afraid of the fact that there are already so many of them. At the end, we'll talk about how many active podcasts there really are out of all that have ever been created. But if your niche is more narrow, you're working with a smaller, but often more loyal audience that will pay you, for example, for your products, courses, expertise, and recommendations. Let's go over the platforms. The situation is as follows. Classic open podcasting via an episode feed, via RSS, hasn't gone anywhere. You upload an episode to a hosting service, and it basically gets distributed to various applications. At the same time, Spotify, Amazon, and other major players are developing closed ecosystems. YouTube, by the way, does this too. You can release exclusives, your own formats. They provide their own analytics and monetization within the platforms, which allows them to retain, creators, great creators, who attract users to their platform. What's important to creators? First, of course, is analytics. It's no longer enough to just count downloads. Completion rates for listening and watching are important, as are the points where viewers drop off and experimenting with different formats and segments. Algorithms decide who to show your content to and when. This includes metadata and listener behavior. How quickly they turn it off, whether they pause, rewind, listen again, or listen all the way to the end. And the third important thing is localization. And today, artificial intelligence, of course, opens up incredible opportunities to enter new languages and markets. And in terms of languages and markets, we'll see strong growth in the East and in Latin America, for example, meaning they will catch up to European and American figures in terms of viewership. But despite the fact that everything seems so great, there are, of course, problems in the industry that are worth remembering, especially if you're planning some changes or you need those changes or you're going to launch a new podcast. First, it's oversaturation. There are a lot of podcasts, but people's attention is limited, and the number of hours in a day is also limited. Many projects are launched and quickly shut down. Podcasts compete not only with each other, but also with social media, games, other forms of entertainment, and even with going outside for a walk, after all. I don't even know what's better, but these are real competitors for podcasts. The second big problem or issue that many are concerned about is data privacy. The more podcasts, the more platforms, the more settings, the more questions there are about the data being used. Because, of course, every platform wants people to watch. And so every platform uses tools to collect user data and show these users specifically targeted podcasts. Here we always have this conflict, so to speak, where we need to show what a person wants, but we also need to be careful with their personal data. So The more data is collected on listener behavior, the more questions arise about how it's being used. Artificial intelligence and ethics is the next problem. For example, who owns the rights to the generated content? How should we treat synthetic voices? Who can you trust? Who created the content that this avatar is speaking? How and when should you be honest with your audience about this? So these are all issues that won't go away in 2026, and you need to pay attention to them and, of course, consider them when working on your podcasts. So let's finally get a little practical, so this isn't just an episode with nice numbers about how great everything will be, but is also useful. Well, first, determine what your audience should love you for in 2026. Who are you making your podcast for? What value or emotion do you give people? And how do you differ? It's a cliche, I know, from your 3 closest competitors. Write this down for yourself separately as a little New Year's promise to your project. Everyone makes New Year's resolutions, right? Plan for at least one minimal video component. Add one camera. It can be as simple as your phone. Get at least one wide shot. Yeah, it would be great if you could get at least 2. That would be amazing. Regularly shoot and publish short videos, or cut them from your long videos and publish them as shorts, TikToks, Reels, and so on. Incorporate artificial intelligence into your process. You can easily hand over basic tasks like rough editing, sound cleaning, transcription, descriptions, preparing chapters and drafts for your posts or your podcasts. Keep for yourself. Don't give AI your delivery, your final thoughts that you give to the audience, and the live interaction with your audience. You can't give that to artificial intelligence. A person has to do that. Only then will you be interesting to your audience. What else can you do next year? Add another source of income, or at least some source of income if, for example, you currently only have advertising. Supplement your podcast with bonus content, donations, or create a small digital product. I don't know, if you're an expert in something, get on a call once a month with your listeners. They'll be happy, and you'll share your expertise and earn some money. These are the minimal things, and I think you can definitely plan and do them. The main thing, as with everything, is to take the first step. Another recommendation from us, as a studio and a production company, once every 6 months, do a technical inspection of your podcast. See which episodes people listen to all the way through, what you talked about, what topics you covered, with whom, where people stop listening, what they quote and discuss most often. And based on that, go ahead and update your next format. Adapt your content based on what is or isn't interesting to your viewers. Next, try translating 1 or 2 episodes and adapting them for other languages. Find an episode that can be adapted and translated and try doing it as a test. YouTube allows this today. There are a huge number of tools. For example, we use HeyGen in our studio and upload a second language track to the same episode, a second, third, fourth, and see how it goes. It turns out to be very interesting. Well, we're coming to the end. And now the promised answer to the question from the beginning of the episode. I said that today in the industry there are about 4.5 million podcasts. You guessed in the comments what part of them is really active and regularly releases content. According to various estimates and statistics, only 10 to 15% of podcasts are regularly updated. You can check this on podcast statistics. That is, in reality, about 450 to 650,000 podcasts can be considered alive and stable. Everything else is on pause at best and abandoned at worst. So the competition is not as scary as it seems at first. Share whether your expectations matched our numbers and draw your own conclusions. So let's choose one specific thing that you will do for your podcast in the first months of the new year. Maybe you'll film your first short, maybe you'll film your first video podcast, use artificial intelligence for editing, or you'll simply get back to a regular schedule. Share this with others. You can even do it in the comments under this episode. Let it be your little public commitment. If this final episode was useful to you, subscribe, give it a like or a dislike if you didn't like it, and send this episode to someone who also makes or wants to make a podcast. Happy upcoming New Year, or if it has already arrived. Thank you for being with us in 2025, and we will definitely see you in 2026.